I hope you saw just how much you were loved. I was there. The children, the grandchildren, friends and family. They all miss you. I miss you. I can remember the first time I ever set eyes on you. It was a Friday night at the dance hall. I'd got all dressed up to wow the boys, and it rained on the way there, and I was utterly soaked. I must have looked quite the sight. It's so strange. I can remember every detail about that night, apart from how I got home. It was as if I floated there, completely oblivious to everything other than meeting the man I knew I would marry. All I had to do was tell him. I got it in the neck when I got home, of course, walking in the rain without a jacket, looking a right sight, but I just didn't care, because I knew it was worth it, just to meet you. Of course, you know me. It always takes me 2 attempts to make a first impression, but I forgot to tell you this on the night. So I had to ask my girlfriends to take me back to the same dance hall the following Friday night. My head filled with the cold I'd picked up walking through the rain, just so I could see you again. This time I sat on my own, hoping you'd notice me once again, but I never saw you. My heart sank, thinking that my one chance of being with you had passed. I was leaving early, and then I bumped into you just as you were entering the place, and I'll tell you that my heart leapt out of my body when this happened. You remembered me. I knew I had to seize hold of this chance with both hands, so I'm not ashamed to admit it. I literally threw myself at you. And my parents thought they'd raised a good Catholic girl. My parents didn't approve, of course. They wanted me to be their little girl and behave like a young lady should. So I wasn't surprised when the day you turned up on our doorstep, when it turned into an interrogation. My dad was always like that. Part protective parent and part Inquisitor-in-Chief. I guess you must have made a good impression, because he called you by your first name after that, rather than that boy or all sorts of variations on it. I hope they're looking after you now. I remember the day we were married as if it were yesterday. I remember walking down the aisle, looking at you and thinking, at last, you'd be mine. I don't mean that to sound selfish. Of course, it isn't. It's just that I could see us spending the rest of our lives together. Poor choice of words, hey Brian? I remember the first time you laid eyes on Esther. The look in your eyes of love and pure unbridled joy. And in that moment, you knew, and I knew, that my parents were wrong to call us a pair of foolish kids when we started courting. And when they first laid eyes on their granddaughter, they knew it too. She gave a nice speech for you, but you know, I could feel that you were there. And she was there for me that day I picked up the phone. I know it was an accident, but we'd both written to the council several times telling them to do something about that junction, but they never listened. They always made an excuse as to why, but at the end of the day, they just didn't feel that our concerns were worth responding to, even though we'd both lived here all our lives. There were so many changes in our time, apart from the one little thing. The one thing we wanted them to change, needed them to change. At least they have a cycle lane there now. But if only they'd listened to you when you asked them for it several months ago, you would probably still be. Tonight, for the first time in my life, I'll be sleeping in a home that isn't a part of this borough. I'll be staying with Esther, just for a while, until I feel ready to come back to a home where I see you everywhere, yet know that you're not here. Well, not physically, but every inch of this home reminds me of you, and it makes me miss you more every day. I miss chatting with you, sat on the sofa as the nights drew in and We just cherished each other's company like we did all those years ago. And this is something I will never have again. Every minute in this place reminds me of you. And it hurts, Brian. It really does. I just hope that when I see you again, I know it won't be for a long time, but that when you look down, you miss me too.